Let's make a game, or at least we will plan to make a game. We already know from where to get the assets from, but AI still can't write good code, so we will have to write it ourselves. So with speaking with respect to code, I will represent files with this box and represent references using the squiggly lines. So let's add a few scripts. So now we have all these components. Now we need to reference each of these component with almost all of the others. So player will require input system to know where to move and get the inputs from. Player will need access to sound manager to play the footstep sounds. Player will need access to UI manager to show health data. Player will need access to game manager to get the difficulty level and find how much attack the player is doing. Enemy movement system will need access to enemy AI. Enemy AI system will need access to player's position for following scripts. Progression will need access to game manager. Input system will need access to UI manager. Game manager will need access to enemy AI to change the difficulty of enemy AI based on the difficulty of the game. Enemy AI will need access to sound for playing sounds. And now you can see it is difficult to understand. Converting it to multiplayer, there will be multiple players. So to manage that, we will need a player manager. And there will be many instances of player which should be connected to player manager. But now you have to rewire everything to the player manager. This is so tedious task, and I don't think anyone is willing to do this. There is a better approach. Let's get rid of almost everything. We will add a new system called event system. Now what this event system will do is it can broadcast events and any other system can listen to those events. So let's first connect everything to the event system. So now any system is able to trigger an event, and event system will broadcast this event to every other component which is listening to it. Let's say player hit W key. Now the input system will trigger an move event with some parameters, let's say forward. Now this event will be broadcasted by the event system to any other component which is listening to it. Let's say player manager was listening to the event, and it will listen. After getting this event, it will move the player which it corresponds to. Let's take an example for this. So this was a game I was working on, and I made a custom event system for this one. It is called Signals. So you can see here are multiple event types which one can trigger. There are multiple input events. There are ladder events, dialogue, camera, and damage system events. So the fun thing about event system is one can anyone can trigger the event, and multiple scripts can listen to that event. So here in the dialog manager, when we wait for the text, after some time we trigger an event called signal.nextLine. Now there is a listener also for this event, next line. And when the event is triggered, this method is called by the event system. Here is another example. There is a class called ladder finder. It just checks if the entity in the collision is a ladder or not. So if it finds a ladder, it triggers a event called ladder attached and ladder detached based on what type of the event it is. And then there is another class called ladder climber, which is subscribe to both of those events. And based on what data it receives, we call the appropriate method. This is very helpful. If you check, this is another example where you will find it very helpful. So there is a event called camera lock or lock camera active. So when the dialogues are active, we want our camera to be locked, not only for dialogues but various other reasons, let's say cutscenes and all. So we need to trigger this event from multiple files using the signal. We can easily do this, and multiple listeners can listen to this event progress accordingly. So in this example, I have used Unity's new input system, which is an event system on its own. But I don't want to use that event system and use the custom one. So there is a player input handler which listens to the events played by Unity's input system, and it forwards those events to our custom input system. And after doing this, in our player movement, we just subscribe to those events, and based on what event is triggered, we handle those. So that's all for this video. I would suggest using event system for larger projects because I have been through the pain of changing each and every reference in various files when the project gets huge. So it's better to use a custom event system.